Greetings, travelers. I'm your host, the C-Dot that knows a lot, Dr. Waluigi. As a kid, one of the earliest toys I remember playing with were the Lego toy sets my brothers and I owned, specifically their action figure set, the Bionicle toys. These toys were the first action figure line that I remember playing with and collecting, as well as playing some of the Flash games that were made by other fans. But nothing will compare to the one thing that made me and my brothers jump for joy when we saw a video announcing something that we thought would never happen. The very first movie, Bionicle, Mask of Light, the movie. The movie began production as early as 2001 during the height of the toy line's popularity. LEGO had received many emails from fans who were asking if a movie was possibly in the works, and thanks to the fans, LEGO responded by looking for several people to help create this movie. The animation was handled by Creative Capers Entertainment and CGCG, and was distributed by Buena Vista and Miramax, which, as an interesting tidbit, was the first CGI movie that was outsourced to a different company, CGCG being a company from Taiwan. The movie had a budget of roughly $5 million, though there is no information on how much the movie made from direct release sales. Critics seemed to like the movie though, saying that it wasn't as good as other Toyline-based movies like the original Transformers movie, but it was popular enough with the fans that 2 prequel movies were made, a series of video games, including one based on the movie, was also made, and finally the Toyline would see another movie made in 2009, as well as a 4-episode Netflix show that was made back in 2016. While LEGO has tried several times to revitalize the Toyline, sadly none of their attempts have worked out as well as when the toys originally came out. While I feel like kids wouldn't find these toys as anything unique compared to LEGO sets released today, my brothers and I loved them as they were simple robots that had their own lore and backstory. Though admittedly none of us read the books or discovered the lore as we just made up our own stories with the toys. But when we saw the trailer for the movie's release way back in 2003, we were super ecstatic, to the point that I still own the original DVD of the movie when my brother gave it to me from his collection. But enough about the movie's history, let's talk about the movie itself. The movie begins with the story of how the Bionicle came to be, as their god, Motunui, brought his people, known as the Matoran, to an island where they lived in peace, which led to the Matoran naming the island after said god. However, Motunui's brother, Makuta, was jealous of his brother's love and praise, and thus put him into a deep sleep where he released his creations of the shadows upon the world. We then pick up with 2 Matoran, Takua, voiced by Jason Mikas, and Jala, voiced by Andrew Francis, who while checking out an old warning totem, discover that it contains the ancient Mask of Light that foretells of a legend that its wearer will be found and become one of the guardians of Motunui, the Toa of Light, who is destined to defeat Makuta and reawaken Motunui. Thus, it becomes a quest for Jala and Takua to find the bearer of the mask, bring it to him, and defeat Makuta once and for all. The casting for this movie is really good, which is no surprise as the cast they got for this movie are mostly actors that worked at Ocean Studios, aka the guys who dubbed most of the 80s and 90s anime for the West. I'd say that one of the things that really stands out for these characters is that even though this movie only gives you a brief mention of the lore and backstory of this world, they really nail the connection to all of the characters, especially the guardians of the island known as the Toa. These characters really feel like they have a strong bond and that they care about each other when they've had to face against the strongest villains in the movie. Like with the leader of the Toa, Tahu, voiced by Scott McNeil, who loses his village after Makuta, voiced by Lee Tokar, sends his children called Rakshi to hunt down and destroy the Herald of the 7th Toa. You get to see the distraught and rage that Tahu faces, and the other Toa encourage and try to help him through his grief. It's something I never saw as a kid, as the movies I grew up with told us that men don't cry and are strong because of it, but with these characters you got to see them really care and support each other, even if some of the characters don't wear their emotions on their shoulders. The thing about this movie that I loved as a kid is the design of the world of the Bionicle. The creators of this movie said that they didn't want it to look like something you couldn't find in our world, and just about every location has something unique or different in it. I do personally wish that we got to see more of the villages and other Bionicles of this world, but for what we did get, it's still pretty good. I'd have to say that this movie did a great job recreating the toys and the world that these characters come from. The only other thing I'll mention about this movie is that the music is so good. I really liked how grand and honestly spiritual the music is. This movie really stepped up its game when it came to the soundtrack, and it's one I'm glad that I found out is available on Spotify and YouTube. So please go check it out wherever you can. If I'm being honest, there's only two minor nitpicks I have with this movie, and it's that there are a couple of moments where the animation isn't the strongest and does clip a lot. It's not the fault of the creators, as some of these moments are clearly meant to be written as a scene of triumph or revelation, but because these scenes clip and shudder, it does make the film look a little cheap. The only other thing I don't like is that Takua is the one character that is a little annoying and kind of selfish. The way the writers wrote Takua is that he's someone who doesn't like going on adventures, but is supposed to discover and become the seventh Toa, which I feel would have worked, and I do like the scenes with him and Makuta, but those scenes are ruined because Takua is so goddamn whiny throughout the movie. If he didn't complain throughout the first half of the movie, he would have been more tolerable, and I would have liked him more. But as is, he is insufferable through most of this movie. Though not to the point that the movie is unwatchable, but it does make these scenes quite hard to get through. For one of the first toy-based movies I was exposed to as a kid, this movie holds up a lot more than I thought it would. The cast is still amazing, the soundtrack is wonderful to listen to, and while I don't think the animation has held up compared to other modern animated films, I do still think this movie is a good representation of the toy line. I hope that one day there will be a resurgence of the Bionicle toys in some way, as this is something I think can get kids' imaginations really going. But for now, I'm content with just rewatching this movie from my childhood. I give Bionicle, Mask of Light, a 9 out of 10. For anyone who wants to feel like a kid again, or just wants to watch an hour and 20-minute adventure movie, I highly recommend this one. Thanks for watching, I'm Dr. Waluigi, and remember, don't judge a book by its cover, cause you'll never know what's inside. Good night, everyone.